Hi, I'm Rod Pry, the director of the Pennsylvania State Sunday School Association, and this is our weekly International Sunday School Lesson Preview. This is the preview of the lesson for Sunday, June the 27th. This week's lesson is entitled Rescued from Doubt, and it comes from the 14th chapter of Matthew's Gospel. One of the key people involved in this week's lesson is Jesus' disciple, Simon Peter. Peter was certainly one of the most interesting and important people of the entire New Testament. But what do you know about him? We know that Jesus called him to be one of his disciples while he was cleaning his fishing nets. And throughout his years as one of Jesus' disciples, he was swinging back and forth from one of the most loyal people that you could ever find to someone who would even deny knowing Jesus. I was trying to think of one word that would describe Peter. I came up with a lot of different words that describe him at different times: rash, impulsive, loyal, dedicated, and many others. But you know the one word description that I think really fits him best? Human. Peter was human, just like you and I today. At one time, he was the rock. Jesus said this was the rock that he would build his church upon. And at another time, he was the person that Jesus even called the devil. In this week's lesson, we see some of the many sides of Peter, a man of faith, but also a man of doubts. The scripture for today's lesson begins with verse 22 in the 14th chapter of Matthew. And it says this: "Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. And after he dismissed the crowd, he went off by himself to pray." It goes on to say that he was there alone, and the boat was already considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Then verses 25 through 27 say, "Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. 'It's a ghost,' they said, and they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid.'" Understandably, the disciples were scared to death. And I'm sure if I would have been there and seen someone walking on the water, well, I'd have been terrified too. But Peter, when he sees Jesus, hollers out to him, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come out to you on the water." And what does Jesus say? A simple answer. He just says, "Come." So Peter gets out of the boat and actually starts to walk on the water toward Jesus. He's doing it. He's walking on the water, but then he looks around. He sees the wind and the waves. And what happens? He loses faith. He takes his eyes off of Jesus. He's afraid, and he begins to sink. And as he is going under the water, he yells out, "Lord, save me." And verse 31 says, "Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. 'You of little faith,' Jesus said, 'why did you doubt?'" It then goes on to say that they climbed back into the boat and the wind died down. And then verse 33 says, "Then those who were in the boat worshiped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" Throughout his years with Jesus, Peter was often very impetuous, and he often seemed to act without thinking. Do you think that that was the case here? Should Peter just have stayed there in a boat? Well, Jesus said it was okay for him to get out of the boat. And remember, when Peter first got out of the boat, he took a few steps on the water. He was doing it. But what happened? He lost faith. And his faith was replaced with fear. And isn't that what often happens with us today? Throughout our lives, we all have doubts and questions. They're normal, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions. They help us to build our faith. But don't get stuck in that doubt. The real key here is that word faith. If Peter would have kept his eyes on Jesus and maintained his faith, he'd have been okay. And the same thing goes for you and me today. Keep your eyes on the Lord and have faith. He can rescue you and provide the answer that you're looking for no matter what your situation could be. As the lesson title reminds us, Jesus can rescue you from doubt. I'm Rod Pry for the Pennsylvania State Sunday School Association. Thank you for being with me today. I hope to see you again next week. And one quick question as we close. Have you checked out our brand new website? It's called BibleStudyAmerica.org. It has lots of information and ideas for all Sunday school and other Bible study group teachers, leaders, and participants. Check it out, won't you? Again, that's BibleStudyAmerica.org.